This is the ABQ Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week we'll interview visionary business leaders to inspire the creative power and spirit that's in every entrepreneur. Discussing strengths, weaknesses, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together for a new future for local small business.
What is up, business leaders? Super excited today for our guests, something that's near and dear to my heart. And I know that there are couples out there that are listening to this. And Josh's story is going to be one that I think is going to help you. I know a lot of you are dealing with addictions, or maybe, especially through COVID, there's been a lot of alcoholism going on. Maybe you haven't admitted that to yourself yet. Well, we're going to get into that today with Josh. He is an expert in this area. And I want to talk a little bit about Josh, and then I'm going to have him tell his amazing story. Josh Lannon is Warriors Heart president and founder and co-author of The Social Capitalist. Great book. Read it. You should get it. Had a vision to open a healing center for our Warriors protectors so they could heal with the peers only. After getting sober in 2001, Josh and his wife, Lisa Lannon, operated 6 healing centers to help others get loved ones back. In 2013, the Lannons joined forces with the former Special Forces, Tom Spooner, to open up Warriors Heart in Bandera, Texas, outside of San Antonio. Warriors Heart is the first and only private residential treatment center in the U.S. for warriors only, military veterans and first responders. And with the bold vision that Josh has is to bring 1 million warriors home from addiction and PTSD. Warriors Heart is leading the way in chemical dependency treatment for our warriors. And Josh is a leading professor at the AKKI annual international seminars and teaches martial arts worldwide. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is even a part of the Warriors Heart recovery program. Josh's work has been seen in Forbes, Chicago Tribune, Fox, ESPN Radio. And Josh, I really appreciate your book, and we're going to get into that. And I really appreciate your heart for serving others and what social capitalism is. Thanks for being on the ABQ Business Podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jason. I really appreciate it. And I love your platform too, because it's unedited, unscripted. Like, hey, this is just us being who we are, being raw, being real. And I appreciate that. So if it gets a little heavy, just know that, hey, I'm gonna reveal some stuff that hopefully can help someone else that's in the struggle.
Yes, I know that. I read statistics that was just crazy about alcohol sales right now, especially during COVID. And then people are struggling with their businesses, small business owners. So I'm really concerned, and I think this is so timely, not with what you're doing with the Warriors, but your story specifically in how you went through this, because there's a lot of people that are successful that are alcoholics.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we party when we use when we're depressed, right? But we party when we're having a good time. So either way, it's like it's socially acceptable. We're supposed to do it, but where's that line? How do we know when we have a problem? And it's when it hijacks your life. That's when it's no longer fun,
Yeah, and I want to get into your book real quick, and then because I know in the book, a majority of the book, especially in like the first 4 or 5 chapters, is your story with you and your wife. But if we could do like a little brief synopsis of the 5 points of social capitalism, and you have it summed up really nicely in the beginning of the book. And one of the things that you said, and I think is amazing, and maybe we could start off this way, is when I finally shed the anger, fear, and addiction, and when Lisa, that's your wife, Lisa and I together opened our eyes, the teachers begin revealing themselves to us in amazing ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, that personally is when I was drinking, I didn't see all of the opportunities around me, or even if I did worse, I saw them. I couldn't capitalize on them because I was stuck in a world of addiction. I was stuck in self-defeating behaviors. I'd get ahead, I'd crash, I'd burn it down. It's this roller coaster, up and down, up and down. And once I got clear, if you will, I got sober. When the teacher, or the saying is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened in my life. Day out of rehab, my wife and I, from my father, he gave me an audio series book called Choose to Be Rich by Robert Kiyosaki. And prior to that, it's like, I'm not into that stuff. No thanks. I'm not into self-help. And this guy looks like a slick salesman and all that. He's like, Josh, he's from Hawaii, because I'm from Hawaii too. He goes, maybe there's some similarities here. You might like him. I'm like, But I did. I put in the audio book because my wife and I were driving from Laguna Beach, California, back to Las Vegas. So I just got out of rehab. I'm going back to Las Vegas, going back to Sin City, to work in the nightclubs. And I put in this audiobook series, Choose to Be Rich. And it truly was, when the student was ready, the teacher will appear. And in that time of my life, the teacher was Robert Kiyosaki. And what I saw was a world I've never seen before, that I just had faced my demons with addiction, my past, my fears, through rehab. And now Robert's saying, hey, guess what? And this is what I heard. It's not his exact words, but you're addicted to money. And I was like, oh my gosh, how many people are there that's also addicted to money? The things we do, the sacrifices we make, the for money. And it's like, I got to figure this out, because if I'm going to get a hold of my life and help other people, I got to figure out this whole thing about money. And that became a life study from 2001 forward till today.
Yeah. And one of the things, and chasing money, like you just said, I think is important. And it brings to one of the 5 points of social capitalism is you say, if your business is going to work, it absolutely, and you have this italicized, must be built around what's in your heart.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just another addiction, right? If it's built around money, is there ever enough? Okay, you get ahead in life, which is awesome. Because, it's horrible not to be able to feed your family, roof over your head. Poverty it's awful. So once you start getting ahead and say your business starts to work, what do? You get a bigger house, nicer car, nicer clothes. But then that can become an addiction where it's like, when is enough enough? So if your business is built slowly around making money, you're building yourself a trap, because there's never enough.
And whenever, because like in the book you went, this was kind of like the theme is, understanding yourself and personal development. Is in 2001, is that really when the journey began for you on personal development?
A conscious decision of personal development, for sure. Because prior to that, as we all do, we try to figure out life. So we look to the people that are around us. We look to role models. But who I had around me were adults that were drinking, using drugs. And it's like, okay, this I guess is what I'm supposed to do. So I went all in. And I found is that left me mentally drained, physically drained, emotionally, spiritually. Like, I was done. And this is part of the journey, if you will, is like that in 2001, that ended up me sitting in my bathtub with my rifle, about ready to end my life. And it was my thinking was so bad. It was, I'm going to put my bulletproof vest, because I would run security and stuff in nightclubs. And so we had all that gear, and I put my vest behind my head because I was being considerate. And the consideration was the bullet was not going to go into the tile. So it was going to be easier for my wife to clean everything up. That's why I was in the bathtub. It was just like, if you think about it, it's like, really? Holy shit, man. But that was the answer to a solution, to a problem I didn't know how to solve. Like, I didn't have a solution. I didn't know how to solve the problem of depression, life just falling apart. And I was watching it, but it was almost like I was a third party person watching it happen, and I couldn't stop it. So I felt ashamed by it. And I thought, well, the world's probably better off without me. And so as I sat in my bathtub, in November 2001, I had a spiritual experience. And I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what it was, but I know for me it was real. And say, like, a lot of people from a spiritual standpoint, whether it's God or whatever it is, like, a lot of people believe in God, but very few people trust in God.
Yes, exactly.
And I was the same way, like, and here I'm in the bathtub, and it's like, don't do it. Not yet. And I couldn't do it, thank goodness. And that night is when Lisa came home in uniform and said, Josh, I'm done. I'm done. Either you go to rehab tonight, or I'm going to divorce you. And she didn't know where I was at, a couple hours prior to her coming home. I was ready in my life. And here it was, like, the student's ready, the teacher will appear. In that moment in time, the teacher was my wife. She was there to save my life. And that's what she was doing. My way of doing things wasn't working. I tried it. I tried everything. I tried controlling my drinking. I tried changing friends. I tried not going out. I mean, all of it. And when she threw me the lifeline, because I thought for sure, she was like, I'm done. I'm out of here. And rightfully so. She said to go to rehab tonight. I was like, okay, I'm in, because I don't know what else to do. And that was kind of the path to surrendering and personal development and following promptings. And it's like, hey, all of this stuff was around me the whole time. I just didn't see it. I was too caught up in my own way, in my own mind, getting in my own way. So that's what really kicked off this whole idea of personal development. So I went to rehab, started clearing my past. Why was I so angry? Why was I so upset? And really taking a look at it, because the drugs and alcohol, that's just medication. That's what it was for me. Like, I felt uncomfortable within my own skin, so I self-medicated. And when that medication stopped working, it was like, okay, drinking doesn't work. Pain's still there, no matter how much I consume. The behaviors I'm doing while I'm drinking makes it worse. I got to really take a look at this. And so my wife, hand in hand, we'd reunited, if you will, in marriage and in life. So let's take on this journey together. Let's figure out what's getting in the way of what we really want in life. And we became students of life for the first time. And that's what I really see a social entrepreneur or a social capitalist is you have a mission first, you have a purpose, you have a calling, and it's got to be more than money. For me, it was, and I look at other successful social capitalists, social entrepreneurs, is they're mission driven. And you got to be, because, like, what's going to get your ass out of bed in the morning? It's not a few extra bucks. At first it will, but after a while, it's not. It's got to be a mission. It's got to be a calling. It's got to be a purpose. And if you can find it or join a team that resonates with who or what your calling is, man, latch onto it and go for it.
Yeah. And I know, in that moment, because we've all been there, whether we've thought about it or whether we've took action on it. I know we've all, and I've openly talked about this on the podcast, me attempting suicide also, coming out of the Marine Corps and all that. And one of the things that I think that helped me that you wrote in the book, and it's number 4 of the 5 points of social capitalism, is what's your fight? What is it that you must take on? And then in the book, you show, how you can recognize your fight and how you know that it's just yours. But can you talk about that, a little bit? And then I want to go back. We'll go back into with your father and your business and nightclub and all that. But what's your fight and how do we take that on?
Yeah, because your fight could be something that motivates you, like you're passionate about. Like, I've seen people that totally into animals. Hey, their fight is, I want to stop animal cruelty, so they get all involved in it. The other could be something that really pisses you off. And that is a huge driver, so you got to look at both sides of the coin. Is like, what are you passionate about? Or also, like, what just infuriates you? Like, what, this is bullshit. And for me, that was my drinking. Did I want to tell people I was an alcoholic? Hell no. But was it a fuel that helps? Like, hey, if I can help someone else get sober, because I know how dark it is and the pain and suffering I went through, if I can help a guy avoid that or jump in the hole with him, go, hey, brother, I know a way out. Grab my hand, let's go. Then it's worth it, And I think each one of us has a purpose, a calling. We just need to explore our past to find it. What did Steve Jobs say? You can only connect the dots looking back. And, all of our life's experiences, from families that we're born into, the friends we're around, the experiences we had, whether it's good or bad or horrible, that might have been for a reason to put you on a platform today to drive a social movement or to build a social enterprise or to join a team that's fighting that same fight, And I think it's important. You got to find your fight because we all have one. I think.
Yes, and I agree 100%. You have in when you began your story, but in chapter one, right off the bat, and this is amazing. I want you to talk with you and your wife and watching this movie. But you have a quote from Morpheus on the Matrix. You say, "Neo,
Right.
sooner or later, you're going to realize, just as I did, that there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path." Can you talk what happened in 1999 with you when you guys went and saw that movie?
Yeah, I thought it was just a cool little sci-fi flick at first, but sitting in the movie theater was like, oh my gosh, that look around. There's so many people that are plugged into the matrix, if you will. Like they don't want to wake up. They're happy. I don't even know if they're happy, but they're programmed to go to school, get good grades, get a good job, invest in a 401k, mutual funds, get a house, have 2.2 kids. That's the program. And they're walking around asleep, wondering if there's more out there to life, feeling it inside, but going, I'm stuck. I'm stuck in this matrix. So in 99, seeing that going, oh my gosh, I was stuck in the matrix of addiction. So then fast forward to 2001, getting sober, reading, listening to the audiobook, Choose to Be Rich, Kiyosaki. I was like, oh my gosh. And this matrix is controlled by what I think two things. One is money, but really it's driven by fear. So if you can control people's money, you can control their life. And then if you control fear, like this whole coronavirus thing, man, it is a pandemic of fear.
Yes.
The virus is real. Don't get me wrong. Like I've seen it. I've been eye to eye with it. My wife had it. In our treatment centers, we've had COVID, but we've been able to manage the virus. Like we can manage it. But what we can't manage is the fear. And that is out of control. Some of just the stuff people are doing now is just like, it's crazy. So tying that back to the matrix is that's how you control the population is with fear. And it's like, I don't want to be controlled. I want to be free. I want to explore and live life and take on challenges and adventure. And if that is, taking the red pill, if you will, and unplugging from the matrix and taking on, say, a life as an entrepreneur, it's going to be hard. There's no safety nets. But man, if you can survive out there on it, it is the most rewarding I've ever experienced.
Yeah, that is amazing. And you're so true about that. And I think you could label this pandemic of fear. I think that's whenever our motivation's that, and I know in a lot of different types of religious teaching, it always talks about the opposite of fear is love. And I kind of want to start, if you don't mind, when you were 19 years old and kind of go back, because that seems like that's when you really began to understand the value of work and you started working for your dad in these nightclubs. Can you start then, if you don't mind, at 19 and kind of go through that process?
Yeah, you bet. I'll back up a little further, but I'll fast forward it. I wasn't good in school. I flunked out of the 7th grade. I had to repeat it. Like I was horrified of school because I'm dyslexic and they made fun of me. I'll give you an example. In class, you have to read, everyone reads, they pull up the book and out loud, you read a paragraph. So the class starts and each person reads a paragraph and you go around the room. Well, I would be in panic mode, go, okay, crap, let me do the math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I got 8 people in front of me. That's 8 paragraphs down. Well, this paragraph is a little short. So I'm going to have to, I think that person is going to read 2 paragraphs and I'm doing all this. Okay, which one's mine? And I'm reading, trying to, okay, what are the words? And then some damn A student would screw up my formula and read 3 paragraphs. Like, so then that's my school experience. Damn it. So now I'm trying to figure it out. I have no clue on what the lesson was about. I was just trying to figure out what was my piece in that. And, I'd have to stand up and read, and I was so uncomfortable, and I hated it. Little did I know that was actually pretty good training to become an entrepreneur, trying to predict the future and see trends and stuff. But, so I didn't do well in school. So my father, at 11, I started work for him. He was in construction, general contractor. So I'd pick up nails and clean up around there. So started at 11, and then at 15 in Hawaii, started really working for him. And then at 19, he moved to Las Vegas. I followed him to Vegas, and he was running a country western club. It's called Dylan's Dance Hall and Saloon. It's no longer there, but it was at the time in the 90s. It was the number one club in Vegas, a country club. And he didn't pull any punches from me. I had to bar back, bartend, and then security, and then eventually I made it up to general management. But yeah, I worked my ass off, and I enjoyed it. I think it's important that as a father now of two kids, is we provide for our kids, but we let them struggle within reason, left and right limits, so they can learn these lessons and values. Like the friends I saw with, parents that swoop in and save them, they're some of the worst off now because they've never learned loss and failure and how to figure things out on their own. So yeah, my father was tough to work for, especially in the nightclub industry. He was a tough man, but he taught me a lot of really good lessons too.
Yeah, and I know, and I noticed, later, and we'll get into later in the story how your father, helped you when at a time that you thought that he wouldn't, and I think that's interesting, and we'll get into that. And I kind of want to mention Lisa real quick. She was, just so you know, because you said she had a uniform on earlier. She worked for Las Vegas Police Department.
She did, yeah, LVMPD. She worked on the booking floor for Metro.
Yeah, and this was in the book, and I thought it was really interesting. It said, even as she was establishing a good career as an officer and enjoyed the work, the mission, and the power of her badge. And I began to think about that, the power of her badge, and I began to think about that, for all of us, how we get our identity in the things that we do in our work. And I think that may be something, where instead of the why, and we'll get into that here in a little bit, instead of the why we're doing the work, we take the work as the identity.
That's a good point. Yeah, because you take on a persona, that I am statement, I am a police officer. No, that's just what you do. I am an entrepreneur. That's a powerful statement. So yeah, you're actually not. That's just your career path. You're much more than that, and I think people, to your point, is they get caught up in that identity, especially when you're in a power position, say it's law enforcement or military or the CEO or whatever, it can get intoxicating. Like, hey, I got the power. It's like, no, really, you have a position. So respect the position. Don't let it go to your head.
Yeah, and so here you are, you're working your way up in the nightclub scene, one of the most popular nightclubs in Vegas. You're obviously kicking ass and doing well. Your father's probably proud of you. And then at the same time, you were talking about matching shot per shots with customers and,
right.
and then 3-day benders. So how did you balance that and working? And obviously you guys got married. How did that work?
Well, for the most part, I kept it hidden. The public image looked like I had my shit together, but behind closed doors, man, my life was falling apart. I was hurting, and I played the same game with Lisa for a long time. It was like, hey, she would see one part of me, and I kept the other part of me hidden. And I think there's a lot of my old friends out there that still do that. They live that double life. It's like, hey, it's important. Like, who I am on this call with you is who I am in front of my wife. Like, I'm the same person. I don't put on different personas, but I was, and that was fragmenting me as well. So it looked like I had my shit together, but I really didn't. And I was being a natural introvert. The drinking and stuff helped me kind of come out of my shell. And was my father proud? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was good at my job, but he also could see that there was something else going on. But I did my best to keep it away from him, away from Lisa, and keep it in the shadows, to a point where I couldn't hide it anymore. And it was just like, it was obvious to everyone. Okay, Josh has a problem. He's either going to kill someone or he's going to kill himself, because this is out of control.
Yeah, and then also, money was coming. You had talked about, and then you talked about that you even, and this I think is crazy how we do this. You even trained her to be a bartender so she could spend time with you in
Right.
the club. Isn't it funny how like all of us that are entrepreneurs, how we can manipulate people to do things to better further our selfish agendas?
Oh my gosh. Well, it sounded like a good idea at the time. It's like, oh, you're not making much money. Where you're working now? Why don't you come into the bar and I'll teach you how to bartend? And financially, yes, it worked, but it also accelerated my addiction. So to your point, that selfishness was there because now I could really go for it.
Yeah, and then you were talking about you guys were leaving like $100 tips and going to all the fancy clubs and restaurants in Vegas, and there's plenty there. You can spend a lot of money in Vegas. So you guys, what it seemed like as a young couple, were just living the life.
Well, we were in our 20s, living at large. We thought we were cool, or I don't know, untouchable, because we had a pocket full of cash and we were tipping valets and tipping the bell. So we had respect, if you will, but we were paying for it. It wasn't because of who we were as
Mm.
people. Yes, we weren't jerks. We don't abuse people. We never did. That wasn't our style. But we surely paid for the respect, because once those, $100 tips or 10, 20, whatever it was, tips going out stopped, so did those doors. They stopped opening too. And it's like, this is not sustainable for us.
Yeah, and what when this lasts only for a temporary season, and it seemed like the season, and you wrote this book, and you have it really bold called "The Bottom." But you said this when you were, and you mentioned the Matrix movie again. You said, with the Matrix, that's exactly how I feel. I'm trapped in a life I don't want. Can you start talking a little bit about when you begin to notice that you had an addiction and how the bottom began to happen, just a little bit before the rifle and the tub and, all of
Yeah.
that going on?
It would go in waves for me all the way back to when I was 13. You know, I, I'd never really liked it. There's part of me that did, the excitement of it, but the other part of me was ashamed of it. So it would go in waves. And, it happened at 13, 17, 21, 25 when I finally got sober, to where I couldn't do it anymore. And I'd have stints of times where I would be dry, like I would just stop drinking, but that would last short term because I wasn't dealing with what was going on inside of me. So I don't know, it's kind of a tough question. Is that life became unmanageable? That I couldn't hide it anymore. I couldn't stop it, no matter how much I drank or partied. It didn't solve the problem. It just made it worse. So that's why, suicide was an answer to it, because I just couldn't solve it on my own. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, and I know you talked about, being paralyzed with fear, and there was like this form of dark haunting shadows that were coming around you. But you said this, and I thought it was real interesting. It was after a 3-day binge, a really bad one, and this seems to be the time, like right when it led up to,
Yeah.
the situation. You said, but as I entered our home and crawled onto our couch, confronted with depression and loneliness as real as our furniture. And I talk to business leaders all the time, and they go out and they have all these business lunches and they drink a ton, and then the evening time they're meeting other people, networking, and their wives there. And and I know you see this all the time, and it's just there's I know of certain people that drink a bottle of wine every night.
Mm-hmm.
There's this, and you start talking to them, and they're successful on the outward, but this depression and loneliness, they even have a family. There's a lot of men that have a
Oh yeah.
family and they're still depressed and lonely. So, when you said it was as real as furniture, is this that underlying feeling that you just were, that would just like a wave come over you?
It was because, thinking about it, is that there was times that I was successful in my life, but I still had the depression, and there was times that I wasn't successful in my life, and the depression was even worse. So success doesn't help it, as far as hide the depression to a degree, because I mean, I still get it today,
Right.
and nothing like I used to, for sure. But I think it's just something that some of us we always have it. So that's why it's so important to work on ourselves constantly. Right now I'm doing the miracle morning every morning. I'm enjoying it. It helps me meditating, working out, journaling, visualization. So it's not like, hey, I got sober, I'm good, let's move on. If that was the case, like if I went to the gym once, I'd leave and I'd look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It doesn't happen that way. It's an ongoing process where I have to work at it daily. So what at that time, the depression was so real. It was so dark, like furniture. Like I could touch it, feel it, see it. Like it was real. Um, Thank goodness I haven't gone back to that place since then. But it's always lurking in the shadows for sure. No matter how successful I become,
Yeah. And, you're at that bottom. Your wife comes in. She just did a 12-hour shift as a police officer. She comes in and you begin to, there's this whole process in your brain of where it's, okay, I'm rock bottom. I need to fight my way back. I had this spiritual thing that happened to me. My wife just made the ultimatum. And you said this in the book, as much as I thought I loved drinking, I loved Lisa more. Was she kind of your way to come back? Was she, did she believe in you through the process, or what inspired you to say, I do? Because I think for addiction, this is huge. If somebody said, I love drinking, but I love Lisa more, most people won't admit that, one. And number two, they're going to say, I love these pills, or I love this bottle more than I love anything
yeah,
else in life.
yeah, yeah. And I would have different moments of time where I'd say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to stop. I promise, I swear. And I would say that to Lisa, like this, it's going to be different. Like New Year's resolutions, perfect example. Hey, let's party up New Year's, but on New Year's Day, I'm done. I'm going to stop. And it would last a little bit, and then it would go back to normal. It would go back to the game. So to say that is 100% true. Like I love Lisa more than alcohol. The thing is, I've said that before, though.
Mm.
It just at that moment in time, there was a difference to it because she provided also a solution. It wasn't just us saying, okay, we're going to make it different. It's like, no, it's time to join a new team that's going to help you through this. And that team was rehab, so I went and basically got enrolled with a new team that with professionals that helped me through, okay, if you want to live a sober life, here are the steps. Here's how you do it. Let's start going through the process. We know what we're doing. Instead of me going, I promise, Lisa, it's going to be different this time. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Like I'm going to go to work. I'm going to do this. But at night, I'm not going to drink. Bullshit. I mean, no matter how much I wanted to, and I would swear and promise, I wasn't changing me. I wasn't changing the environment. So it was just a matter of time before it creeped in.
Yeah. And
That it's powerful.
yeah. And one of the things that you said, because when you went through that treatment in California, you said, and you have this in a sidebar, which I was like, because you have to read the little sidebars, because you have sidebars in your
Right.
book. You said learning from, forgiving, and healing the past is an important part of personal development and being able to move forward successfully in your future.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. Because again, it goes back to, well, why was I drinking so much? Why was I putting myself in situations that I should have been killed? Why was I, doing the things that I was doing? It's because I had stuff in my past that I wasn't proud of and stuff that was still haunting me. And I'll give you an example of that is love my father to death. They had with my mom, a horrible divorce, and I saw some abuse and stuff that it stuck with me at a young age. And I didn't know it, but that's why I was attracted to martial arts, because I was training for the day that I was going to stop my father from hurting my mom.
Wow.
And it wasn't through personal development. I was like, holy shit. Like I've been fighting, I've been training, I've been fighting, I'm going to cage fights, I've been put myself in situations in nightclubs where, hey, I'm the first man in. I'm going to stop this fight from happening. No, I got it. I want to protect my friends and all that. And it was like in this personal development, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm fighting my father this whole time. I was like, like all of that, it didn't go away, but it was like, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. And it was so freeing, but without joining a team, learning it from people that have been there, done that, getting mentors to help you look at things at a different perspective. Like I still would be fighting my father today and not knowing it. Now I have a great relationship with him. It's just like, wow, holy crap. So there's so much to our past that drives us that it's worth looking at. And without clearing that, sometimes it can drive us away from what we really want in life, our goals, our dreams, our families, because it's there and we don't know why we keep sabotaging our life or why we keep doing the same thing over and over again. Like we got to explore our past.
Yeah. And what you said is so important. And I think it's the key for those that are listening to understanding how to forgive. Like when you became to that realization inside of yourself about what you made your father to be, then, and whether he was that or not, it doesn't matter. When you release that inside of you, then it was easier, I would imagine, for you to forgive your dad. And like you said, now you have a great relationship and understanding him.
Yeah. And in a strange way, it became the greatest gift, is that I am now the man I am today because of what he did. So I'm better because of it. It don't mean I like it or I agree with it, but I look back and go, that was the biggest gift. Thank you, Father, because now I'm not scared of physical confrontation. I can protect my family. I have proficiency in the martial arts. Like I wouldn't have gotten any of that, and I still want to be the guy that will step up and say, hey, enough's enough if there's a problem or if someone's abusing someone, or it's like, and it's nice to have the ability to be able to stop it. So it became a gift, instead of just sitting there going, stop hurting this person, but not having the abilities or skills to actually be able to stop someone.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing, and I think, and you have that in the curriculum of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I have talked about Jiu-Jitsu a lot on the podcast myself, but it's one of those things. Whenever you look at being a man, and we'll get into that when we get into on the veteran side of things here in a little bit. But you and Lisa are driving home from the addiction. You're driving all the way from, like you had said, from California to Las Vegas. Your dad had given you this present. You didn't really want to listen to it, but you decided to go ahead, and it was a CD set. You decided to go ahead and pop it in, listen to it. And one of the things that you said in the book after you listened to it is, our choice was this: we could keep doing what we've been doing, or we could take a leap of faith. We can embark on a new path, one of personal development and transformation. Can you talk about you guys sitting in that, because you guys, in the book, you said you even sit in the car a little bit longer
in
after
the driveway
just to finish it up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we drove 5-6 hours back from California, and we're still sitting in our driveway listening to this audiobook. We didn't want to go in. And we did. We had a choice. We could just keep doing what we're doing. Would anything change? Probably not. Like, it'd be wishful thinking at that point. It would have been another resolution that, hey, I really want to, but we really didn't make the sacrifice and the commitment to change. Or we can change everything. And that's what we decided to do. So our home became our university, if you will. We started studying books together. We were putting articles up and pictures up on the walls and inspirational things. And like we jumped all in. It's like, oh my gosh, there's this whole world of personal development that we never knew existed before. And if just this last 28 days had such an impact on our lives, imagine what's going to happen if we keep going. And we became students again, but truly students of what we wanted to learn. And that was one of my issues in school, is they were teaching me stuff besides the elements, the basics, reading, writing, arithmetic, teaching me stuff I had no interest in. now we can actually start studying stuff that we're interested in. And it was a game changer. So yeah. And then in a short period of time, it became pretty obvious who my true friends were and who my drinking buddies were. I was
Yes.
surrounded with a lot of drinking buddies, but once, like, tip in the door, man, once those drinks stopped flowing, the friends went away. I was like, okay. And the true friends are like, hey, man, anything I can do to help you, I'm here for you. So
Yeah,
our circle got smaller, but it got tighter and better, healthier.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you guys, not only did you just get out of rehab and you made a commitment for your marriage, you made a commitment for yourself, you made a commitment to enter into this social capitalism. And you have a quote by David Bornstein on how to change the world. And I think this quote hit me really hard, probably one of the most important things. I love your story and everything that was going on, but especially now in what's going on with this fear, I'm going to quote your words, this fear pandemic. It says this quote on how to change the world from the book. Indeed, for anyone who's ever said this isn't working or we can do better, for anyone who gets a kick out of challenging the status quo, shaking up the system, are practicing a little entrepreneurial creative destruction, these are propitious times. And I love that because, we always think of entrepreneurs as being, creative destruction and he's embracing it. Like, let's shake up things. And you have in social capitalism, you have this social entrepreneurs build businesses that make sense while accomplishing social missions. So if you don't mind, if we could get into what your social mission was, what you and Lisa decided to do, and why it was so important that social capitalism was, brought into when you began to open up these journey healing centers.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, so I went back to work in the nightclubs, knowing that, okay, we got to change everything. And the program that I went through, the owner of the program planted a seed in me, and I didn't realize it. But he said, hey, when I was drinking, all I wanted to do was open up restaurants. Now that I'm sober, all I want to do is open up treatment centers. Maybe you'll be the same. And at the time, I didn't think much of it. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but hey, nice meeting you. And I actually had a few other choice words to him. At the time, I was pretty ornery. We ended up becoming friends. And he said, hey, I like you. Just don't ever talk to me like that again. I'm like, yeah, fair enough. So I called him up and I said, hey, you mentioned to me about opening up treatment centers. I'm working in the nightclubs here. I just can't do it anymore. Spiritually, I can no longer be part of the problem, because it was get people drunk, help them hook them up for the night, and keep the women safe. That was our business plan, and we were good at it. But what, one night stands, DUIs, kids coming to the front door, where's my mom? I mean, all that stuff, right? And it's like, I just can't do it anymore. I don't want to. I choose not to. So I asked him about the treatment center. He goes, yeah, I'll teach you how. And so I got a mentor in the field, drove back to Laguna, and he said, I'll teach you the business. Here are all my policy procedure manuals. You can talk to anyone on the team you want to. His name's Spencer. And I go, Spencer, why are you doing this? He goes, one alcoholic helping another alcoholic. Maybe you'll do the same someday. And it was like the generosity of this man, basically, because like, I'm going to be in competition with you. He's like, I don't see it that way. I was like, wow. And we're still friends to this day. He's actually my sponsor. Just incredible. And so took what my experience, took his platform, and then Lisa and I built our own program called Journey Healing Centers. Because there were some things that we saw in his program. Hey, we could improve upon this, improve upon that. And with that idea, with the quote, is let's be destructive about it. Let's go in there in a good way and shake things up. Like, this is how treatment should be. It's no longer in institutions. Let's do it right, where people are treated with dignity and respect, because we know what it's like from the end user's point of view. We know what the family goes through with Lisa being, scared and in the dark and not knowing if your loved one's going to live or die. We know what it's like from the addict's point of view, crawling in through the front door, being scared to death. Let's build a program that speaks to them. And we did, and it worked. Jumping forward a little bit, we ended up with 6 locations in multiple states, Arizona and Utah, and had a staff about 100 working for us, and just absolutely loved it. Was it easy? Hell no, but it was a mission that kept us focused and kept us moving forward, and we loved it. And one of the unique things about Journey is that we just didn't look at our clients or patients as they're the ones with the problems. It's like, oh no, we're all fucked up. So the team, everyone is doing personal development. Like, we are not exempt from this process. And so we would do personal developments and trainings and seminars with them and read books and study. And it was a culture of healing, and it worked. It was really cool.
So I think that's awesome. Right now, I know there's a business owner out there and I have seen this in successful companies. I was talking to someone the other day that works for Lululemon, the yoga brand. They have like outerwear, and people, it's a very popular brand. And they were talking about how much in their culture do they do personal development. They even have times where they don't call it meditation, because they don't want to impose on people with all this politically correct stuff. But they even have times where they, if somebody's getting angry, they have where they have to take the time to breathe, to be intentional. And I just thought it's interesting to see, and it goes right along, I know, in the way you believe and the way I believe, is personal development to me is probably the most important thing you can do as a leader or as coaching with your employees.
Absolutely. Because if my stuff's not dialed in, it bleeds over to everyone else. So we, as leaders, we have a higher responsibility to make sure our shit's tight. Otherwise, it's destructive to your team. It's not right, and it's not fair. So we have to work on ourselves even harder.
Yeah, and I know we've only got about 15 minutes, so I could talk to you for hours on this. I mean, like I said, it's an amazing
I'm
book.
enjoying it, Jason. This is good.
Oh, thank you. And I encourage everybody to get the book. It's called The Social Capitalist: Passion and Profits, An Entrepreneurial Journey. And it's part of the Rich Dad Advisors books. But I want to kind of get into a little bit because, I was in the Marine Corps, and this is something that's, like I said, after my own heart is, I know you founded the Warrior's Heart. What caused you? Okay, here you are. You had these Journey Healing Centers, and I know you sold them. And then you look at and you're saying, I'm going to do something for warriors only, military veterans and first responders. When did that begin to happen?
Yeah. So prior to selling, being one that's committed to personal development, pushing myself, doing cage fights. I mean, this stuff, like, I have 2 things. One, warrior at heart, a protector. And that's what I really see a warrior as, a protector. And then also just the drive to continue to grow. So I'm part of an organization called YPO, Young Presidents Organization. One of their sister organizations is EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. Highly recommend them. There's qualifications for your business to get into them, but it's a network. It's an incredible network of personal development, business development, all of that. So I'm on the international website, and guys are talking about a thing called Leadership Under Fire in California. It was a 4-day Navy SEAL experience. They basically just kick your ass for 4 days. So I went down there, did it, got to go on the grinder, got to experience the evolutions. We slept for maybe 4 hours in 4 days, met with command there. I mean, loved it. So fast forward a little bit, I'm on the international website looking for more of that stuff. And then I came across, it's a U.S. Special Operations and Selection course through YPO. I'm like, I'm in. And then I don't know why I kind of hesitated. And finally, like right up to the deadline, I'm like, okay, I'm in. Click. And then reserve my spot. And that's when I got a phone call from Scott Spooner, Tom's brother. Tom and Scott formed this company, Invictus, and they were doing trainings. And Scott starts drilling me, who are you? These guys have been training for this thing, and you come in at the last minute. Says it immediately started the selection process. I'm like, holy crap. But fast forward, I fly to Raleigh, North Carolina, next to Fort McCall. That's where the training was at, Fort Bragg, and started going through the training. And it was close quarter combat. It was firearms training. It was hand-to-hand training. It was the mindset of special operations. Like, I loved it. And for me, it was like, okay, this is my tribe. Like, I like the Navy guys, but it wasn't there. The Army guys, like, okay, these are my guys. So I just fell in love with it. And after the training, Tom started briefing us on 22 veterans a day commit suicide. He's like, you guys experience the suckiness of it. You experience some of the sexy stuff that we do, but let's talk now about the aftermath. And it was like 22 veterans a day. That just doesn't even make sense. Like, bro, it's real. And that's when Warrior's Heart started to come together. And so I started talking to Tom about it and Lisa, and it's like, well, what's killing them? So reverse engineering it is, hey, typically when a guy commits suicide, they're either drunk or high. Not always, but there's a high statistic rate of it. It's like, man, when I was in my bathtub, I was drunk as hell. Yeah, I get it, man. I get, because it was that, the case of the fuck-its. So it's like, hey, Tom, I know behavioral health. Lisa knows behavioral health. We've been doing it for the last, 15 years. You have the military side of it. He's also in recovery, big in recovery. It's like, let's form a company that just treats our warriors, active duty veterans, first responders, because the same numbers aren't as high, but same police department, police, firefighters, EMS, like suicide rate's high. And so we did. We, in 2013, built Warrior's Heart for the warrior, by the warrior. And it's unlike any other program in the United States that I've seen. It's almost like a basic training without the in-your-face yelling stuff. But, all of our guys, they've gone to a basic training. They've gone to academy. They've gone to advanced courses. That's what it's like when they come to Warrior's Heart, is it's a training course. And we're training them on how to live life sober. And we've had tremendous success with it. It's a 60-bed facility right outside San Antonio, Texas. We're full. We have contracts with government, so TRICARE pays for it. The VA pays for it. And we're expanding rapidly. We've had over 1,500 guys through our 42-day course, and couldn't do it. Couldn't have done it without Lisa and without Tom, because collectively, again, we're on a team, and we're going at the mission together.
That's amazing.
Long, man, I'm super passionate about it.
Yeah, no, and I want to kind of get into this a little bit more with the time that we have left. What would be, just so everybody understands, because I know you have a wood shop and you have art where they can metal and knives and different things like that that they can make. What would be like a typical day? Can you kind of run us through like a day? Because I want people to imagine this. Here they are on a Texas ranch. Is there dogs running around? Does it look like a typical Texas ranch?
Well, it used to be a corporate retreat center owned by ConocoPhillips and another oil company, Mac Chase. So it's high end. It's nice. So you're on a ranch. It's not like a dude ranch, but a corporate retreat. And typical day, wake up, morning briefing at 0700, and basically, hey, here's what's going on for the day. Also reviewing different activities. So we do a morning briefing, and it's also a roll call. They roll into breakfast. There's some chores. Hey, make your bed. Some basic stuff. Get your clothes off the floor. And it's part of contributing. And then they roll into different classes in the morning. Depending on the day, it could be nature hike. It could be yoga. So the first thing in the morning, we're doing some PT. It's not like line up, down, up, push them out. It's not like that. But we are getting the blood going. Let's do a nature hike. Let's do some yoga. And then we roll into the therapy side of it, from PTSD groups to addiction groups, to relapse prevention, to process groups. And that's where it gets pretty heavy. Then we'll break for chow at noon. And then we roll into the elective side of it in the afternoon. One of the things that's unique about Warriors Heart is we do 4 individual sessions per week with a counselor. They have 2 counselors assigned to them. One counselor focuses on the chemical dependency, and the other counselor focuses on the dual diagnosis. What's killing them first? Is it the chemical dependency? Is it dual diagnosis? I don't know. Let's treat them both. So we hammer that out with them in individual sessions, as well as the other days if they don't have their one-on-one scheduled, they can work with the dogs. We have a canine program. We've rescued and placed over 150 dogs. We train them up to be service dogs, and if there's a connection with the warrior, because dogs really pick us, if there's a connection and the warrior wants a dog, they can go through that process to leave with the dog, so it becomes their battle buddy. We also have art programs. We have wood shop. We have metal shop. We have fishing. We have a ton of electives that they can then customize their program on. In addition to ongoing therapy and treatment, what else do you want to add to your lifestyle? Is it working out? Is it, hey, I want to learn a trade of the wood shop or the metal shop, or, I really love working with dogs, and what is it? So that's when we truly have a customized program. Fast forwarding, then go into dinner, chow, and then evening will be more social activities like fireside talks, movie therapy, cinema therapy, do some big book stuff, some AA stuff at that time, social activities, and then lights out at 2300.
That's awesome. And what I love about it is that you're speaking their language. So with this program, you're immediately being able to say, one, I was there, I can help you out. And number 2, let's make it in a format that it best facilitates your recovery. And for me, that's totally the amazing part. And I have actually seen this. I think I saw your metal and art shop on some article. It was somewhere. And this was like probably 6 months ago, 8 months ago, that had actually seen this. So it was interesting, that it's getting out there. And I know a lot of, I know there's going to be, this is going to grow huge. What are your plans for 2021? I know you're already talking about you're already full, so you're probably going to end up expanding.
Yeah, we have 40 more beds under construction right now. And then we had one property under contract in North Carolina. We ended up pulling out of that one, but looks like we'll end up getting another one there. But I mean, I can see Warriors Hearts all over the U.S. because the problem's huge. The demand is there, and we've proofed out a formula that's working. So now it's just a matter of putting the right team together to hold the rules and the standards of how these programs are to be ran.
Yeah, and I know you said you have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as part of the program too, that they can, engage your mind, because Jiu-Jitsu is like one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Oh man, me too. I tell you, me too. Punching's easy.
Yeah, it's so, I mean, having somebody, and I'm talking more mental than physical. I mean, the physical side is there, of course, but the mental part of that. So I could see that being a huge help to get somebody to focus on the mental side of things, I think is awesome. And I know there's going to be, have you had some, I know there's a huge push with this, especially, veteran care. And then now you've got, all these different Navy SEALs and Army Rangers and these leading people that are coming out, and they're all getting all these podcasts and things like that. Have you had anybody, or are you seeing like more of an interest of this in the military community?
Yeah. I mean, the guys are becoming more vocal about it. Like, hey, I'm tired of losing my brothers and my sisters to this. So it's becoming more upfront, more prevalent. Kind of like, hey, I've hit it for a while. Now I'm just tired and I can't hide it anymore. And I think that's what's happening. So we're starting to see some awareness. Even the 22 veterans a day, that awareness wasn't really in the limelight. And I think it's becoming more and more.
Yeah,
which is
and
a good
you
thing.
started the Warriors Heart Foundation, which is separate from the Warriors Heart. Can you explain the foundation and then how the entrepreneurs that are out there and the business leaders that I have that listen to this, how they can help you?
Mhm. Yeah, you bet. No, thank you for that. So Warriors Heart is the treatment center side of it. The foundation is for the guys that come to us and say, look, bro, I've burned everything down. I have no resources. I don't have the VA benefits. Or maybe as a cop, it's like, look, I don't have private insurance. That's when it's like, we got you. Fill out this application, this scholarship application, and let's see if you qualify. And the foundation will fund you through the program. And we've done things like with Black Rifle Coffee, awesome company. We have our own Warriors Heart blend. So a portion of those proceeds go into the foundation. So we've had other businesses do things like that for us, then help fund from either a straight donation to being entrepreneurial about it, that help our fellow brothers and sisters get the treatment that they deserve, even if they don't have the resources. Because we don't want to turn anyone away. It's so hard just to finally say, okay, I need some help. And then to be turned down on top of that, it's crushing. So we do everything that we can to minimize that so it doesn't happen.
And is there a website for Warriors Heart Foundation if somebody wants to be a part of this or help donate?
Yeah, if you go to warriorsheart.com, there's a link for the foundation on that, and that'll take you over to it.
Perfect. And I just want, to tell you, Josh, I appreciate your vision. I appreciate this vision of bringing 1 million warriors home from addiction and PTSD. It seems like whatever you make up your mind to do, you do. And just this abundance that you have, that you and your wife have started, and you've gone out on this leap of faith twice now. And I know it goes without, we don't have time, but I know there'd be a ton of stories of heartache. And in the book, you talk about that in the Journey Centers where you almost didn't make it, and then you did, and then something happened.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you for doing this and helping people that need it the most. These guys are heroes. They've went and they gone to sacrifice their lives for us, and they came back, and something's fucked up, and it's fucked up in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And we need people like you to come in and say, I don't know what's happening over there, but here this is working and we can do it. And I'm so excited that the government's kind of helping or come along with you with the insurance side of things. But I just want to thank you, and I'm so appreciative of you being on the show today, Josh.
I appreciate it, Jason, and what you're doing too, providing tools, knowledge, education to the entrepreneurs. That this is key for us to win, is to share information, and that's what you're doing, and I'm honored to be part of it.
Well, thanks, Josh. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share, and go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.